Hi, I'm Chef Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're making a special treat that I love to make. It's espresso almond biscotti and they are spectacular. They're so good. I actually made them for a woman who has lots of family in Italy, and she sent some to her mom who said they were the best Italian biscotti she has ever had. And I was like, I can't believe it. She loved my biscotti. So they're super easy to make. Biscotti in general is super simple. Biscotti in Italy means, or in Italian means twice baked. So we're gonna bake the cookies in a log, 2 logs, bake them off, slice them, and then toast them again in the oven. Super simple. So in an electric mixing bowl, I have 3½ cups of all-purpose flour. I like to add 1 cup of white whole wheat flour, which is just a little bit of a nutty flavor. If you don't want to, just add 4½ cups of all-purpose, all right? And I have ½ cup of granulated sugar. And to give it a little bit of a caramelized flavor, 3/4 cup of light brown sugar. If all you have in the house is dark brown sugar, go for it. Now, this is my secret. So I have 2 tablespoons of instant espresso powder, all right? Make sure it's fresh, make sure it's very fragrant. So that you can buy anywhere. And then I have 2 tablespoons of espresso coffee beans, the actual bean. And then I coarse grind it in a spice blender. And I love the little crunch that you get when you actually bite into it. So I'm just gonna whisk this up, because the brown sugar sometimes can get a little bit clumpy because it's a little moist, and it will sort of suck onto anything that's next to it, like flour, sugar, anything like that. All right. I'm also going to add my chemical leaveners, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a ½ teaspoon of baking soda, and a ½ teaspoon of salt. I'm going to add that right now. Again, you want to get these all in so that they are thoroughly blended. Then I'm going to take a lime and, a lemon and an orange, and I'm going to zest them. So I have about 1 teaspoon of lemon zest, teaspoon of orange zest. I'm going to add that as well. And I like to add them in with the dry ingredients. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to put my whisk down. I'm going to use my best tool because I see my brown sugar's clumping a little bit. So I'm going to actually, watch me, I'm actually sort of putting through my fingers the large clumps of brown sugar and some of the zest that I feel. And I'm just going to get this blended together really well. And it smells so fragrant. If you ever got an espresso in a restaurant, like a little cup of espresso, it sort of packs a little bit of a wallop, but they usually serve it with a twist of lemon zest with the peel, and that's what we're mimicking here. But these are not, most biscottis can be very, very hard, where you have to dip them in your coffee or you have to dip them in wine to get them to soften up. This biscotti has enough fat in it in the form of oil that it's not going to do that. All right, going to do a quick hand wash. And then we add our liquid ingredients. Super easy. So it's dry, and then you put your liquid into them. So I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to get this ready with my paddle attachment. And this is pretty full. This bowl is pretty full, and I have a good size electric mixer. So I am also going to add my almonds. So I have 2½ cups of toasted, coarsely chopped, salted, very lightly salted almonds. If you want to do salt-free, if you want to do slivers of almonds, these are natural almonds, so they have the skin on them. So I almost forgot to put those in. I'm going to get those in there. And you're going to hear a bumpity bump when I mix. All right, so we're just going to get those in. 2½ cups. This is a big recipe. It makes, oh, I'm overwhelmed but with almond smell. Yum. It makes a lot, probably about 3 to 3.5 dozen of these beautiful biscotti, depending on how thick you slice them. So my liquid ingredients are such: 4 large eggs, 1 cup of oil, and that's any type of oil you want. I like to use canola or a vegetable oil, half a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and 1 teaspoon almond extract. Ah, yum. Just to sort of say almond. And then I'm just going to break up my yolks. Doesn't even have to mix too much. Now, once I start this, it's going to be ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. So I'm going to dump my, for lack of a better word, my dough into this large bowl once I have it mixed. So just be prepared for the bumpity bump. All right, so it's going to be a loud sound. There we go. And you're just going to pour in your liquid ingredients. That's all you're going to do. That's it. That's your biscotti dough. And because electric mixers don't always mix perfectly because of that little notch on the bottom, I like to dump it into a bowl and really mix everything up. I'm going to move some of this over. And we don't want to overmix. And you'll see it's very clumpy. It's very clumpy. Not to worry. Never worry. Because we're going to push it together. It's a drier dough. Remember, it's a cookie that's relatively crisp, even with the oil in it. And I'm going to put it in my large bowl. Remember, the first time I wrote out the recipe, and I said, I got to try this. And it was, look how much. It makes a lot. So you're going to make 2 big logs of this. Now, I will tell you, I'm just squeezing it together. All right. And if it doesn't squeeze together to the point where it's forming a really nice dough, and it's a little dry, and sometimes that happens, have a little water ready. I'm going to pour a little water in here, maybe a tablespoon or so, and you want it to come together. You want it to clump together. All right. I needed my 13-quart bowl. This is a big amount of batter. Or dough, I should say. It's not really a batter. And we're just going to push it all together. And if I need a little more water, I will use it. And this is true for any dough or any type of thing you're making. Sometimes maybe I added too much flour, maybe something happened and there was not enough flour. So sometimes you have to adjust. And this is very true with a lot of different batters and doughs. It is very true, especially doughs. I'm looking for a consistency that it's going to hold together. All right. And I'm just, if you notice, I'm not kneading it. I'm just sort of gathering and rotating it. I want it to come together. All right. And I have 2 large sheet pans because you're going to make 2 big logs. 2 big logs. And you won't have to do your aerobics today because you can actually, I'm breathing heavy making these. But oh, they smell so good. They're so easy to make. See, you want it to sort of gather together so it holds together. I'm still not getting that, so I'm going to add a little more water. And don't be afraid to add the water. This water's not going to hurt anything. I wouldn't add cream. I wouldn't add milk, but water's good, especially if the dough is not moist enough for you. You know, when chickens lay eggs, trust me, this is a tangent that actually is relevant. Sometimes the eggs are not perfectly 2 ounces for each one if you use large eggs. So I might have got short shrifted on one of my large eggs and I needed some extra liquid, and that's fine. So you just want to work this. You want to work it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to build like a snake on one of my sheet pans. So I'm going to grab my sheet pan. It has been greased very thoroughly with nonstick cooking spray or oil, whatever you want to do. But I would not do butter because you really do need to use that greasiness on the bottom to actually allow that dough to come together. After my dough came together, I divided it in half, and on the 2 sheet pans, which I've sprayed with nonstick cooking spray, I'm now forming 2 logs. And I'm actually going to put them diagonally. These are 15 by 10-inch sheet pans. They may be even a little bit bigger. Use whatever you have, your largest sheet pans. Do not use parchment paper. It will be very hard to shape them because it's nice to roll them in the oiliness of the bottom so your hands don't stick to the batter. And then you're going to press, because we have a lot of baking powder, baking soda, and things are going to spread. And we want them to spread because we want nice, big, gigantic biscotti. But you do want a straight line. I usually make them about 15 inches, whatever you can, whatever your diagonal is of your sheet pan will work fine. Just try to get to almost the bottom of it. All right, and shape both of them. These are going to bake at 350 degrees for about 30 to 32 minutes. They're not going to get too much color on them, but they should be firm. All right, and then we're going to bake them again. Biscotti. But before we put them in the oven, we're going to put a little egg wash on them and a little sugar. Why not? Right? Yum, yum, yum. And I'm just going to push, push, push. All right? I'm going to give my hands a quick wash. I took 1 egg and with a fork I broke it up. Pastry brush, and I'm just going to go across and just coat each of those logs. That'll help them brown a little bit, although they're not going to brown too much like I said before. Then I'm going to sprinkle them with some granulated sugar. If you don't wish to do that, skip that part, and then just put them in the oven. All right, so here's my egg. Just going to beat that up a little bit. Pastry brush. Just go up and down. You don't have to do this too heavily. You just want to moisten it so the sugar sticks. You're going to do your other one as well. Okay. They're very easy to make. It's sort of like going back to your childhood and playing with clay. But you do want to make sure that they are shapeable. All right, so here's my sugar. Just going to do a little sprinkle up and down the logs. Up and down. All right. Into the oven, 350 degrees for 30 to 32 minutes. So my beautiful biscotti, 1 log, came out of the oven. I let it cool for about 10 minutes, and I cut it in half on the bias. That's sort of angled. And now I'm going to cut 1/2-inch thick slices crosswise all the way down, and I'm using a chef's knife. Some people like to use a serrated knife. I find that it shatters the biscotti. So do what's right for you. My knife is a chef's knife. I'm going to do about 1/2 inch and just be very gentle with it. All right, you're going to go down about 1/2 inch. The thinner it is, the more likely it will shatter. And then what you're going to do is take these and stand them up. Okay, stand them up straight and tall. And you're going to leave them about 1 inch apart, and you're just going to stand them up like soldiers. And you're going to slice this whole log, put them back in the oven at 350 degrees for between 8 and 10 minutes. And if you still feel the sides and they're still soft, you can leave them in for another minute or two, but be careful. As they cool, they firm up, and they're going to be perfect. So I took my biscotti out of the oven after they've been twice baked for the second time. So I stood them up like soldiers. I put them back in for about 8 to 10 minutes, and they firmed up as they got cool, and they're not tooth breaking. That's the type of biscotti I don't really care for. So these are a little bit more tender. So they'll fall apart in your mouth, and you will love them. And they'll give you a little jolt of espresso. So I hope they put a pep in your step if you have this beautiful espresso biscotti. And I hope you become a subscriber. I hope you make this recipe. See you next time.